Tonight's scripture reading will be taken from Luke chapter 15, verses 11 through 21. Luke chapter 15, starting in verse 11. And he said, a certain man had two sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falleth to me. And he divided unto them his living. And not many days after, the younger sons gathered all together and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with riotous living. And when he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine in the land, and he began to be in want. And he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into his fields to feed swine. And he would fain have filled his belly with the husk that the swine did eat, and no man gave unto him. And when he came to himself, he said, how many hired servants of my father's have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before thee, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. Make me as one of thy hired servants. And he arose and came to his father. But when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion, and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in the sight, and am no more worthy to be called thy son.
Thank you, Wesley. So thinking about a lesson to put together and what would be beneficial. You know, we talk about Sunday night lessons and what the group is here and the ones that came back. And it kind of sparked a thought of myself of what happens to me when I see people in the morning and not in the evening. So the gist of it comes back to this thought. And when you think about this, I want you to kind of think about what I look out into the crowd and I see about half of what I've seen this morning. And I think about this movie. And then I think about this. And you're like, what in the world are you talking about, Ty? Well, this is me when I pull in at 10:20 in the morning for breakfast, and there's 16 cars in front of me. And I get up there and they switched over to lunch. And I had this craving of breakfast, and I knew, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to make it in there before 10:30. And they are right on it. 10:30, it's shut down. So you know what I do? I get upset. And most of all, I get this. I get disappointed. And I think that's a lot of things for us. If you looked at the first thing, it was off a vacation. It's when they pull in the park. If you watch the show, I'm not encouraging you to watch it. But anyhow, I just think about him driving down through there. And he's got this whole place to himself. It's going to be the best thing ever. And it's shut down for 2 weeks. Drove clear across the United States. The nightmare of a journey. And guess what? Don't get to reap the benefits. This could happen to you too when you think about disappointment, because disappointment is a sadness or displeasure caused by a non-fulfillment of one's hopes or expectations. When I'm putting this lesson together, I'm thinking, oh, there's going to be so many people here to listen to this tonight. And I think that happens to a lot of us. Because I had 2 other lessons written, just so you know. I had 2 other lessons written. And I thought, when I go home, I'm going to think about another lesson to write. Because I didn't know why I was going to be upset or why it would harm me or what would be the issue of me not seeing people here. But it comes back to this expectation. And the byproducts of disappointment are depression, anger, denial, fear, apathy, where you lose your zeal, you lose your gumption to go do it. And many will experience one or more of these episodes of disappointment every single day of their life. They will. And it's not a good trend. It's not. Proverbs 13:12 says, Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but desire fulfilled is a tree of life. These things you want so badly, and for them to come to reality, and they don't. They don't. But what I've come to learn is that the gospel is an opportunity for everybody, and it's their choice not to be here. But it's still my job to convey a message, not only to you, but to those who may be able to deliver to them to get them here. So how do we do this? Thinking about this. And no, that has nothing to do with the lesson. Megan goes, what'd you put that background? I said, I don't know. But I just like the picture. I pulled it off there and I remember, I'm like, but disappointments are just like different things that probably when we was building this building. There was things that we wish we would have done differently, right? I know for one, I wish there was a big window in the back so I could run some audio and video stuff. We always talk about that. There's some different things you wish that things you could have done differently but it's all part of life growing. And then, one of these disappointments is one of the things I'm talking about tonight is brothers and sisters. You'll get disappointed because you don't feel like they're putting the effort out. You don't feel like they're doing their jobs. You want to just push them and say, come on, get along, come on, help it. You need to do this. You got to help out. And there's certain things we got to get this done. But then you just go away and you walk down, just like, I can't get to them. I can't get to them. Well, let's look at Moses' story. Acts 7:23 and 28 says, now when he was 40 years old, it came into his heart to visit his brethren, the children of Israel. And seeing one of them suffer wrong, he defended and avenged him who was oppressed and struck down the Egyptian. For he supposed that his brethren would have understood that God would deliver them by his hand, but they did not understand. And the next day he appeared to two of them as they were fighting and tried to reconcile them, saying, men, you are brethren. Why do you wrong one another? But he who did his neighbor wrong pushed him away, saying, who made you ruler and judge over us? Do you want to kill me as you did the Egyptian yesterday? Then at this saying, Moses fled and became a dweller in the land of Midian, where he had 2 sons. You think Moses was disappointed with his people? Do you think that upset him? Absolutely. Here they are, just starting to fight again. It does that. The same thing does this for me in our nation. When I see our nation and when you see these videos and these things in the news of people harming each other or stealing or beating each other for no reason, it sickens you. It's disappointing that we live in a nation of freedom, because I work with 2 people that lived in a communist country growing up. You didn't talk. According to them, you didn't do anything like that. You spoke out against them. You better get ready. You'll never see that person again. That's what they understood. And this freedom, you just feel like people take advantage of. What I get caught up in, and maybe you do too, is you think about all these things that they could do. And you realize that I should be focusing on myself. Of things I could do better. And maybe by my actions, I can get them to do things better. That's what we should really relate to. Not get angry, because you get angry. You get upset. When you don't see people here, you're just like, why don't you want to be here? Because you'll become frustrated, such as Moses. And just what he did. Do you see what happened to him? Did you see what happened to him when he got upset with him? See it, Cindy? What did he do? What did he do? Then at this saying, Moses fled and became a dweller in the land of Midian. You ever see yourself, pull yourself back from brothers and sisters because they didn't do what you wanted to do? You ever seen that? Because it makes you angry? You get upset at them? That's what this will cause when you look at being disappointed. So let's look at a few things that you may become disappointed with in your life. Don't raise your hand again for this one, but how many's been disappointed with their spouse? In a way that you think about disappointment, do you ever get frustrated and disappointed with them over a situation or their reaction to a situation? How they handled themselves? Why didn't they keep it together? Why did you act like that? Are you going to continue to act like this? Aren't you starting to mature yet? Or why are you upset at me? Or why can't you do that right yet? That happens to a lot of us. Job, look at this situation with Job. In Job 2, 9 and 10 says, and then his wife said to him, do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die. But he said to her, you speak as one of the foolish women speaks. Shall we indeed accept good from God, and shall we not accept adversity? In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. Do you think he was disappointed with her? We're not on the same page. Why not? Why don't we look at this the same way? I know a lot of people struggle getting their spouse here for various reasons. But you see, this has been a problem since the creation of time. When you add these conflicts and you start to grow farther and farther and farther apart from each other, you see the situation continues to cause anger and displeasure, and sometimes it will ruin the family unit because of disappointment. You want them to step up and start doing things. It's your time to do the laundry. Okay, I'll do it this week. It's your time to take the kids to school. Okay, I'll do it this week. That's certain things that we have to work through. Friends, disappointment. Job 16, 1-4, it says, then Job answered and said, I have heard many such things. Miserable comforters are you all. Shall words of wind have an end? Or what provokes you that you answer? I also could speak as you do if your soul were in my soul's place. I could heap up words against you and shake my head at you. Think he was angry, disappointed in his friends? Wouldn't stand by? You ever had friends like that? Won't stand up for you? I run into people like 3 or 4 years down the road, and they'll say something to me like present day, and you thought they had no use for you whatsoever. Then you realize, and they said, they actually tried to take care of you. Then you have others, you were just as close as you can be. You spend every day with them, and on a turn of a hat, they'll walk right away from you. They'll throw you under the bus just like that. And it's disappointing, isn't it? Because you really thought you did. You know why? You know why, Gary? Because you put all this time and effort into them. This person you just barely I said hi to, they treat you like gold. It's disappointing. And they get you mad. Children. How many's disappointed with their kids? Don't raise your hand either. A lot of times, this is a struggle for a lot of people. 2 Samuel 13, 37 through 39 says, but Absalom fled and went to Talmai, the son of Ammihud, king of Geshur, and David mourned for his son day after day. So Absalom fled and went to Geshur, and there was 3 years. And the spirit of the king longed to go out to Absalom because he was comforted about Amnon since he was dead. Talking about this situation with his sister. He was angry. And instead of keeping it together, he killed him. It didn't make, and it tore David up. It did. He was disappointed with him by acting that way. Then he turns around and look how he acts again. He continues to disappoint him. In 2 Samuel 15, 30 through 31, it says, but David went up to the ascent of the Mount of Olives, weeping as he went, barefoot, and with his head covered, and all the people who were with him covered their heads, and they went up weeping as they went. And it was told David, Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom. And David said, "O Lord, please turn the counsel of Ahithophel into foolishness." This was when Absalom was trying to take over David's kingdom. I think a lot of people struggle with this sometime in their lifetime. Disappointed with their kids, how they turned out or decisions they made. And it's got them discouraged. It's actually probably weakened their faith some. It has. It's put them through trials on this life that they just feel like it's been hard for them to push through it. And the reason they push through it's because they love God. They love Jesus and what he's done for them. But it's still a tough one. It really is. So you ask yourself, when you have these situations come up, whether it's your spouse, your friends, family, children, how do you deal with it? How do you deal with this disappointment? Well, let's deal with the friends and maybe the brothers and sisters first. Expectations. Psalms 118, 8 and 9 says, "It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in man. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in princes." I feel like a lot of times when we do this maybe goal-oriented thought or this opportunity to try to get these people in here is that we set the pedestal too high sometimes. And it causes disappointment. Not knowing it just takes baby steps. And how do we? Well, we got to get them involved somehow. And then after we get them involved, they really got to take part and think, you know what? They're actually missing something when they're not here. It really means a lot to miss this time. It has to be convinced and conveyed that way. And remember, these people may be weak and they make mistakes and they need nurtured and molded and guided and developed. A lot of us weren't raised in the church. I was truly blessed to be brought by parents that brought me to service every single time the doors were open. But many people I've run into lately, they've never seen that in their life. They've never had that opportunity. So for them, it's not like embedded in their memory bank to do this every single time and why it's important. That's why we really have to sit back and we have to nurture them and teach them the importance of it and get them enveloped. And that way, I'm not sitting around here disappointed. And you know what? Eventually, it might disappoint them that they haven't been doing things. And that brings us in to a couple more parts of this. Romans 8 and 28. And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. That's how we start to develop them in these situations and get them as part of this effort to get to heaven. Because they want to work together because they love who? They love God. Not me forcing this down their throat. They want to do it. Galatians 6 and 9 says, "Let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart." And that's what I feel like a lot of times for myself, this Galatians passage was written for me. Because when I'm disappointed, I lose heart. And I think a lot of you here do too. It frustrates you. So the second part of this, if you're going to be disappointed, a lot of times the person that I'm most disappointed with is myself. It truly is. I always feel like there's more that I could do. I'm like, why did I wait so long to do that? Why did I wait for I was 50 years old or 40 years old or 30 years? Why did I do it when I was younger? Tell you a lot of this is a disappointment. I was talking to Megan about a few things when Sydney was down at the graduation. I think I had 3 classes left to finish my bachelor's in pre-physical therapy. What it was, 3 classes. There was a golden opportunity to go take this job. Of course, I put it in there. I got the job. And it was just as much as I would have made when I got out of college. Now I'd have probably making triple what I made down there. And you think about that, you're just like, so disappointing. You look back, you're just like, wow, I wish I would have stuck that out and did that. And I think a lot of people, like when you make those decisions in life, that's what kind of works on you and makes you disappointed. But you really, you know what? I can't use that as a crutch the rest of my life and think, well, what if, or what? You can't do that. Made a decision, you make the best of it, and you move on. That goes back to that question. Are you ever upset of how things turned out for you in life? 2 Corinthians 4:16-18 says, therefore, do not lose heart. Even though our outward man is perishing, yet the inward man is being renewed day by day. For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, is working for us for a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. While we do not look at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporary, but the things which are not are seen are eternal. That's why you push on. 1 John 1:9 says, if we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Because I hear a lot of people say, well, I didn't go to church, or I'm not doing this because I can't live faithful. And then you look at this verse and you're like, you can. You can live faithful if you choose to. Or is this your crutch? Is this the reason you're not coming? Because you're disappointed with yourself because you can't live to these standards. Well, yes, you can. That verse says you can if you choose to. So, disappointment. What I figured out from this lesson, and I think what a lot of you figure out, the reason I'm disappointed is I'm usually judging every single person that comes in there. I'm trying to weigh them in the balance and see which one should be doing this and which one's supposed to be doing that. So I continuously look like, well, you know what? Cole could have been doing this. Wait, what makes you think he should be doing this? Well, that's just what Ty thinks. And that's not right. It's not right. Are people going to live up to their standards, up to your standards? Probably not. Probably not. Rick tells me he goes and he works, like he's usually traveling all week. Then I said, what'd you do yesterday? He goes, well, I went up and worked on that rental or that house he was flipping. I'm like, I thought I was busy and working. And I'm just like, at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't think I could keep up with his work ethic. If that makes sense, like just a lot of us have different work ethics. And he would look like, well, he ain't doing enough. And then when I worked for Carl, I know I wasn't working up to his work ethic, if that makes sense. And you look at a lot of different people, everybody has different standards, don't they? Some is just barely grazing by. Work a guy, I'm telling you, he won't work overtime for nothing. No way. Minute after, bang, I'm out the door. I ain't working nothing. You ain't forcing me. Then I had guys I work with at this last plant. Hey, you got any openings? I'll work the 7 days and the next 7 days. And then I'll tell you what, 365 behind that, I'll work them too, overtime. That's what you're dealing with a lot of times. You don't know what the driver is in people. And a lot of times I'm evaluating every single person based off that guy's working 80 hours overtime every week. And that's not the case of every person who walks in. You want them to work like that. You do. But a lot of times that's not the case. And we got to take that consideration. Make them better and eliminate some of your stress. You ever stress you out when you work around people who just kind of just walk? I'll get it for you. You're jumping over top of them to go grab the hammer and back and forth. You got the board put up on top of there. I get stressed. I do. Stresses you out. But you got to try to figure out some way to make them a little bit better. Because if not, you'll be stressed out of your mind all the time. So a couple things to help you with disappointment. First of all, allow yourself to feel disappointed. And what I'm getting at it, accept it. Accept that you are disappointed. And why are you disappointed? You have to understand why you're disappointed. Are you disappointed because you wanted to give them to heaven? Or are you disappointed because you got to do their work for them? If that makes sense. Don't dwell on what? What might have been. Well, this thing would have been just gigantic if everybody would have kicked in. Really? And now you're going to go around the next 10 years complaining about it because that person didn't show up on Tuesday night at 7:30? Can't do that. Give yourself some credit. You do. Give yourself some credit that, you know what? I am disappointed, but for a reason. I'm trying to get people better. And I want them to make it to heaven. And I'm going to do everything I can to make that happen. Put things in perspective. It's not the end of the world most of the time. Most of the time we freak out and lose it and think everything's going to be over with if I don't get this thing done in the next 10 minutes. I kind of did that today with Megan. I was putting this lesson together and she was trying to mop. And there was 4 chairs that she had already mopped and I was sitting on the 5th one. I said, I got to get this lesson done. You can mop that later. And she looked at me. She's like, nope. She was in the mode. She's in the wiping. And I was on the 46 strike. And I was like, okay, do what you. And I felt like I was just like, here I got angry. I'm getting upset. And she's doing what she needed to do. It needed done. And a lot of times I feel like that's the case for a lot of us. We worry and get angry and upset. And it doesn't matter. Always look at the positive. Always look ahead and always look forward. If they hear this lesson tonight on Google this week, and they realize that, man, I wish I'd have been there. I really wish I'd have heard that lesson. That might make a difference. That may help them develop their better relationship with God. John 16:33 says, these things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have what? I have overcome the world. Jesus had overcome the world. And you can overcome your disappointment with people. And you might sit here tonight and be in sin and falling away because you're upset with a person in here because they're not doing what you think they needed to do. Or they upset you 10 years ago. One final thought. I don't know this guy, but he was a great picture on the internet for me. It's a disappointment for me. He set all these expectations, and you're just like, man, everything's going to be great, and it's all going to work out. And I had these huge expectations. I was only about this big, and Dad remembers this. I went to the section or up here to the school up here. I won this foul shooting. I went to the regionals. I won it. And I went to Dayton. I go to Dayton and I make 22 out of 25 foul shots. And a guy from Dayton makes 22 out of 25 foul shots. Shoot off. Go to shoot off. Flip the coin. I win it. I looked at Mom and Dad. I said, what should I do? Go first. When you know it, I missed the first 3 foul shots. Made 2 out of 5. I don't know what the guy made. The only thing I know is he made more than I did. And his trophy was about that size. And I'm showing you what I brought home. Nothing. There wasn't no second place trophies. There wasn't anything from it. Do you think I was disappointed? Oh, I mean, I wish I'd took a picture that day. I could have brought it up there, but I think Mom was so mad she didn't take a picture either. But you're thinking about a lot of times you're disappointed. But you know what? I was disappointed, but you know what I did? I got home. I went back shooting foul shots. The gist of it is that situations occur. You'll get upset. It's life. You push through it and you get better at it. You do. You learn from it. Say, hey, what can I do differently to get myself better? And that's the where you're at tonight. If you have a sin in your life, you need to repent of it. And that's because right now you're the same way with yourself. You're disappointed with yourself. You truly are. You want to get better. How do you do it? Well, you ask the prayers of this congregation. That's your first step back on your road to recovery. And then you live a better life and cast that sin out of your life. You never become a child of God and need to be baptized. You are also disappointed with yourself. You know that you need to become a child of God. And I need to be baptized because I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. If you have this need, come forward as we stand and sing.